Artificial grass is the perfect way to give your outdoor space a makeover. Not only is it easy to cut and install, but once laid, your artificial grass is maintenance-free and the hard-wearing synthetic pile will keep your garden looking good all year round. The realistic colours and textures give the appearance of real grass, while the perforated latex backing allows easy drainage and is fade-resistant, making it ideal for gardens, balconies, patios, replacement lawns and landscaping. Artificial grass can be laid on both hard and soft surfaces and is a great way to beat any hosepipe bans during hot summers. Hard-looking finish. Before we begin, it's important to know that the pile direction should be kept the same when joining the sections of grass together, as this may affect the amount of grass required. The ranges are available in 2 metre or 4 metre widths, so it's a great idea to draw a scaled plan of your area and mark on the sections of grass and its pile direction to help you work out the width and quantity that you will require. Make sure to add on an extra 200mm to the width and length of your measurements to allow for trimming and joining. There are 2 types of surfaces that artificial grass can be laid on. Soft surfaces such as existing grass, soil, beds and borders, or hard surfaces such as concrete, decking or patios. To begin, we will work through the steps of laying your artificial grass on a soft surface. For soft surfaces, the first thing you will need to do is prepare the area by removing any turf, rocks and overgrowth and levelling out the surface with a garden rake, making sure to remove any stones. Now, before we go any further, you'll need to work out the height you want your grass to be and the height of the materials you'll be installing, including the sub-base layers. Timber edging is the preferred method to secure your artificial grass and to prevent movement. The framework should be about 19mm thick and 100mm deep and should be made from treated timber, with any cuts treated before your installation with an end grain preserver to help prevent rot. The framework then needs to be secured into the ground using wooden stakes. Position the stakes on the inside of the framework using a club hammer to force them into the ground before fixing them to the frame using deck screws. It's best to screw the wood to the stakes instead of nailing, as this provides a much stronger grip. Throughout this process, make sure to check the framework is level at regular intervals by placing the spirit level on top of the framework and across any corners. As an alternative to the timber frames, you could instead use fixing pins, although this method does not keep the grass in position as well. In every case, a sharp sand subbase is required underneath your artificial grass. However, in some gardens, the quality of subsoil may mean that there is the potential for draining issues. As such, your sand will have to be accompanied by another material in order to prevent this problem. If your garden has draining issues, here's what to do. As artificial grass is permeable, rainwater will run straight through it. However, during wet weather, water may stand on the soil surface or drain very slowly. To resolve this, crushed aggregate can be laid to a depth of 75mm and compacted prior to the weed membrane and sharp sand subbase being laid. If you are not adding 75mm of aggregate, the timber framework should be submerged into the ground so that when the sand is laid and compacted, it is flush with the top of the timber framework. To prevent weed growth through the perforations in the grass backing, we'll need to spray the area with weed killer before placing down a layer of weed control fabric. There's no need to pin the weed control fabric in place. Once this is done, we'll need to lay down some sharp sand to provide an even, porous subbase on which the artificial grass can be installed. For this, it's useful to get an extra pair of hands to help with the sand and artificial grass laying. Lay the sharp sand on top of the weed control fabric to a depth of at least 35mm. Then, condense this using a vibrating plate compactor or heavy garden roller. If using a timber frame, use a straight edge to pull back the sand to ensure the subbase is flush and level with the top of the framework. You can then use a builder's float to ensure a smooth finish. The grass can now be carefully unrolled onto the sand, taking care not to drag it across the sand as this will damage the levelling work of the subbase. Then, rough cut the pieces to size, allowing an extra 100mm on all sides to allow for joining and trimming. You'll now need to leave the grass to settle for 24 hours to prevent it from wrinkling or creasing. Once the 24 hours are up, make sure to look at the grass from all angles. If you can see any overlaps or any small gaps, you will see this in the finished installation, so try and work the grass carefully into position. A carpet stretcher could be used to help to ensure a good join and remove any creasing in the artificial grass. If you need to join any pieces of grass together, fold back and weigh down the grass with some bricks and place down joining tape between the 2 pieces where the seam will be. Using a cartridge gun containing adhesive, apply a continuous zigzag to the tape,
leaving approximately 50mm free at either edge. Use a notch trowel to spread the adhesive evenly over the tape, leaving a gap of approximately 25mm from the edges. Carefully fold the edges of the grass back onto the tape, wiping away any adhesive that gets onto the grass. Next, firmly press the seams down before using heavy objects to weigh them down for 24 hours to ensure maximum adhesion. Scaffold boards with bricks on top are ideal for this.
If there are smaller lengths that need joining together, self-adhesive artificial grass joining tape can be used as a simpler option. If you have installed a wooden frame, there are various options by which you can finish the edges of your grass to suit your outdoor space.
One option is to cut the edges of the grass and fix the artificial grass to the timber frame using 30mm galvanized clout nails every 300mm along the frame. This method looks great when the outside perimeter of the grass is finished flush with a parallel edge. Alternatively, you could fix the edges to the timber frame using 30mm galvanized clout nails every 300mm along the frame before trimming and tucking the excess grass in between the framework and an edging stone. Or you could neatly finish the edges by tucking the artificial grass over the frame and directly into either the ground or borders for an attractive finish. If you haven't installed a wooden frame to hold the grass in place, fixing pins should be used to secure the artificial grass at 300mm intervals along the edges, hammering them in through the grass and directly into the ground.
Now that we've successfully installed our artificial grass onto soft surfaces, it's time to move on to hard surfaces. For those of you who are laying your artificial grass on a hard surface, these next few steps will give you all the information you need to create that professional looking finish.
The first step is to ensure the surface area is clean and smooth, and that any uneven paving slabs are made level. If you're installing artificial grass over decking or suspended floorboards, you'll need to check for any raised screws or boards and secure these as necessary.
There is no need to smooth out any expansion gaps between the boards, as if fitted correctly, the artificial grass will not show any imprints between the deck boards when laid.
Next, we'll need to put down an artificial grass underlay, which will offer extra protection and comfort. Using a sharp utility knife or pair of heavy-duty household scissors, this should be cut to the same size as the artificial grass, allowing an extra 100mm on all sides to allow for the joining and trimming of the grass and underlay around the perimeter. This will be trimmed to fit later. Once this has been done, the grass can be carefully unrolled and roughly cut to size. Like with the underlay, we'll need to allow an extra 100mm on all sides to allow for joining and trimming. If it's a large installation, then you'll need to leave the grass to settle for 24 hours to stop it from creasing. To create the perfect join, overlap the two pieces by 25mm and using a straight edge and sharp utility knife, carefully cut through both pieces of the artificial grass. Next, fold back the grass and install the tape between the two pieces where the seam will be, making sure the tape is the adhesive side up. Remove the protective foil and fold the edges back onto the tape, making sure the grass fibers do not touch the adhesive surface. Press the seams down firmly and weigh down with heavy objects. Scaffold boards are ideal for this. Leave for 12 hours to ensure maximum adhesion.
For larger installations, you may need to use joining tape and a separate adhesive, which we explained earlier in the soft surface section of this video.
To secure the perimeter of the grass and underlay to a wooden surface, simply fix both pieces using galvanized clout nails, securing at 300mm intervals along the wooden sub-base.
If you are securing to a concrete or paving slab surface, simply adhere the underlay and artificial grass using the artificial grass adhesive following the product's instructions. You'll need to apply the adhesive around the perimeter, pressing the underlay and artificial grass down firmly. Next, weigh it down with heavy objects for 24 hours to ensure maximum adhesion. This can once again be done with scaffold boards. Finally, wipe away any adhesive that might have got onto the grass during this process. Now that your artificial grass has been installed, here's some tips to keep your new grass in tip-top condition.
You can use a stiff garden broom to remove any leaves or debris from the surface or to lift the pile. Make sure to brush towards the pile direction for ease of removal. Then, brush again in the opposite direction to lift the pile. To clean up after pets, remove the mess in the usual way and remove any residue with a hose or mild disinfectant. With minimal care and maintenance required, your new long-lasting lawn will look fantastic for years to come. Now all that's left is to enjoy.